Hello and welcome to this video. Just first off, I wanted to caution you all that this is not an educational video. I'm not going to explain the techniques I'm using. I'm going to maybe walk through them, talk a little bit about them. The thought behind this is that I'm gonna talk about knitting, probably in other topics while I'm knitting. And the idea is that you can then knit along at home while watching my video, because I know I at least watch YouTube videos and TV shows and such when I'm knitting or doing other creative projects. So that is sort of the idea behind this, and I'm going to leave some links to some of the techniques I mentioned. I am working on putting together like a whole introductory video, a beginner guiding other beginners into knitting, specifically knitting sweaters, but it does take a lot of effort and a lot of planning and a lot of time to make sure that I do it properly, the way that it's actually informative and doesn't confuse you even more. So I'm taking my time with that one. I'm gonna make sure it's really nice, but it is coming. But until then, this is sort of more of a low effort project for me, because it's just me sitting down and talking while I knit. So hope you guys like the idea behind this. Alright, so first off, I'm just gonna present what I'm working on right now. So this is a wool, teal, silver, and hot pink v-neck sweater with an I-cord collar, which it's the first time that I've ever done a v-neck, and it's a soft v-neck. You know, it's not really a v-neck, but it is a v-neck. It's the first time I've knitted a v-neck, and it's the first time I've done an I-cord collar. So those elements are new. And then at the bottom here at the ribbing, I did a bind off in hot pink. And this hot pink is a sock yarn and then a mohair that I found secondhand. And I think they work together really well, and they're nice and soft and fluffy. And that's also the cuffs. And then I did a bind off in silver, which I'm not happy about yet. It has balloon sleeves, and I did 8 different points of decreases instead of 4 as I usually do. So the decrease part is more intense. This is the first time I've ever done a striped project, and when you're knitting a stripe on circular needles, you need to use a certain technique so they're not disaligned. That happened at the beginning of this one. All of the stripes were disaligned at the front because it's a spiral you're knitting, so it's continuously going downwards. And you have to use like a certain method where you slip stitches, and I used one. I'll link the article I found in the description, because I did not understand the other jogless stitch technique videos I found them incredibly difficult. I chose one that leaves a trail inside like this. I also had to learn this after figuring out I didn't want it to be disaligned, and then having to unravel all the work I did. And then all the yarn that I unraveled kind of tangled together, and I had to use a whole day on untangling that, so that was a very, very frustrating process. But I'm still glad I did it though, because this is so much nicer and I'm actually going to enjoy wearing this. So that's a rookie move. Don't knit stripes on circular needles without first learning how to do a jogless stitch technique. I'm not sure if that's the right term, but anyway, just don't jump into it on circular needles. Also, with stripes and armpits, I did a sort of rookie mistake here. I picked up an extra stitch through one of the silver stitches from the stripe before. You know, it's not as streamlined in the armpit as it is on the other side, where I learned from my mistake and I did not do that. So it's a learning process, and that's what I'm saying is, like, I'm a complete amateur. I just love knitting. I don't know anything about it. I just kind of try to do what feels right. Drop my needle there. I don't follow patterns because I like to figure it out as I go, and then I would rather unravel and do it over than have someone else to tell me what to do, I guess. Creatively, I'm just independent and stubborn. So that's sort of the price of having that creative freedom, is also making a lot of mistakes and learning from those. So it's kind of fun. I actually really like going through that process of realizing something I did didn't work and then figuring out what it was about it that didn't work and correcting my mistake. I'm knitting with 2 different skeins of yarn and they are really getting friendly. They're really getting tangled up. And I don't know how to prevent that. There's probably a really smart technique that old ladies who knit and have always been knitting their whole life know, but I don't know. Because I don't know anything about knitting, I'm just doing it. I started knitting sweaters just under a year ago. April 2018 I started knitting sweaters, and at first I did them very differently from now. I didn't know the raglan technique and I was just using acrylic yarn and I was just sort of going at it. I wanted to show you guys. I did this sweater over the New Year's and I don't like it. So I'm gonna unravel it and do it differently and better this time. I like the color, I like the turtleneck, double turtleneck, and like a lot of the details I really like. I like the idea of including gold as a contrasting color, but it doesn't really work. It's like too lumpy and weird in the bottom here. And then I like the idea of having 1 pearl row on the sleeves, but it's too much with also having these like balloon frill cuff details here. And I did work really hard on doing decreasing and then a rip and then doing increasing to make it like roughly, but it just doesn't really work. I think it would have to be more structured yarn and then a bigger sleeve going in with a faster decrease, like on this one for example. This whole area is decreases and here it's only this whole area, and I think that would work a lot better. But I do like the basic idea of doing like a frilly cuff like this. This just doesn't work, so I am definitely going to unravel this and redo it, and that's just the pain of working without patterns that I gladly welcome and actually actively pursue by not choosing to use patterns. I did a little list of things I wanted to talk about. So the next thing is what I do while I knit, because knitting is very time consuming. It's one of the benefits of knitting. It's actually like you have to concentrate and it takes a long time. It's not instant gratification. You have to actually put in a lot of effort, and it slowly unfolds before your eyes. So you have to do something while knitting. At least if you're a younger generation like me and you have been brought up multitasking, you'll have to have more input than one at a time. So what I usually do is I listen to music, I watch YouTube videos, and I mean, it depends on how skilled you are at knitting. Some people can knit without looking at it at all, and I can sort of sometimes do that a little bit, but it's a lot more clumsy than if I do look. It takes more time, and it depends on what type of yarn I'm knitting with also. But listening to YouTube videos, watching a TV series, again, air quotes, watching it. I watched Criminal Minds for the first time during a lot of the making of this sweater. In a lot of these stitches are like built-in love for Spencer Reid, played by Matthew Gray Googler.
He needs some milk!
That I have just fallen into this pit of a celebrity crush on. Like, he's so chaotic and it's like such an oddball, but really fun to look into a bit. So that's what I've used a lot of my energy on while knitting this, and I think that's really fun to like know the story behind like what energy did I put into this sweater, in a sense. I listen to audiobooks. I discovered recently that through my library membership I can listen to English audiobooks. I feel like I can always hear the original English sentence behind the Danish one, and it's just like my brain can't relax when I'm listening to translation. So I prefer to listen in the original language, of course, only the languages I know, which is very limited. So I have been listening to Gillian Flynn's books. I listened to Gone Girl, and I listened to Sharp Objects. And Sharp Objects I actually listened to after I watched the HBO miniseries. I'm actually glad I watched it first because a lot of the imagery, like the series, is just so spot on with like the whole atmosphere and the whole theme of the book is actually really, really well translated into the visual field. So I do really recommend both the miniseries and the book, but only if you're not squeamish. It is very uncomfortable. I almost felt like nauseous watching it or hearing it, and that's sort of the point. Like, if you weren't, either it would not have been written well, or you would be lacking some sort of basic human emotions, because it's about very dark themes. So like, content note is like, it's about partially about self-harm, and if that's something you're not comfortable with, then you should not engage with this piece of fiction. And it's also about murder and family drama, and like a lot of trauma happens in this story, but it is so intricate and so uncomfortable, and really just a piece of work. I want to re-listen to it, but I also want to rewatch it, and I only had like a 2 weeks free sign up to HBO, so I can't rewatch it, and that kind of sucks. And I haven't listened to that many other audiobooks. I've been in the queue for the Philosopher's Stone, the first in the Harry Potter series, since December, and I still haven't moved up that far. Like, it's like this weird construct. They only have 30 copies of each book, even though it's like an online file that they just have access to, but they can't distribute it just without any limitations, I guess. Like, that's part of the contract, that they can only distribute 30 files at a time. It mimics the system of a normal library, except it's with audio files. So I don't know. I've been in the queue for a long time, and I'm sort of giving up. But also people just, I guess for fun in their free time, record themselves reading a book and upload it to YouTube, like Harry Potter audiobook, and it's like 7 hours video right there, just available to you. But then the YouTube app can't be playing while you're doing other things unless you have YouTube Red, and not a lot of people have that. So in that sense, it's not very practical. I actually, while I started knitting my first ever top-down raglan sweater, I was listening to All the Boys I've Loved Before. It's good, but I don't remember it at all, and I can definitely tell that it's not meant for my demographic. Like, it's definitely meant for younger people. Nice input while my brain was actually working on the sweater, but couldn't relax enough to solely focus on that. I don't know if you know what I mean, but I think a lot of young people will get the feeling of like having to multitask, which is kind of scary. Sort of impulsively jumped into filming this video because the light was really nice. I have been living in this 1-room apartment since August 17th, 2018. It is not that big and it has been very dark throughout the winter period, and now that it's finally sort of maybe thinking about being sort of spring-like, it is very light, especially if I keep my curtain down, because it diffuses the light more softly, and it is perfect for filming, and I'm very happy about that. And that brings me to my next topic, actually. This channel, and sort of like what I'm doing and what videos I'm planning and why I don't have a regular upload schedule. So this channel is something that I purely do out of fun, and I'm not aiming to be like a big YouTuber. I don't want to earn ad revenue and get sponsored by SeatGeek. I just sort of really enjoy putting together videos and connecting with an audience in that way, and sort of playing around with my creative capabilities. It has been like a recently discovered creative pursuit for me, and so I only film videos whenever I actually have the energy and the time that I want to put into it. So it's only born out of want and not necessity, unlike a lot of other YouTubers who like other YouTubers, you know, a lot of other content creators who pressure themselves a lot and do it with an outer motivation, whereas my motivation is an inner motivation, of course, also partially outer motivated. If it were only about like the external validation, then I would probably just stay on the platform that I'm already successful on. It's in a regular schedule because it's just driven by my interest in making videos, and I don't ever want to like force myself to be creative when it doesn't feel right. When the process isn't nice, the end result is not going to be nice, and that's just my philosophy on that. I do have a few videos I'm working on, and I have like a whole list of video ideas I write down. I just have like a dilemma of not having enough time or energy or resources to invest into my channel, and I want my videos to have a certain quality, and if I can't live up to that ideal I have, then I would rather just not make a video. Something that's sort of been on my mind a lot has been Burnham and his whole philosophy around having an audience and like performing in everyday life. Make Happy, his latest comedy show, like at the end he just says that if you can live your life without an audience, you should do it. And I think it's amazing to me how much this struck me as abnormal for this time. Like, someone saying live without an audience, or you don't have to be consumable, is so telling for our mentality at this day and age. Like, it is so internalized, this idea of performing and pleasing other people and getting this type of external validation, that a lot of our lives has been completely changed from just like a few decades ago. And so I've been mulling over this idea of like the balance between being your own person and staying with yourself and like not needing external validation and not constantly expecting other people to care about what you're doing in your life, and then also sharing people, because I have experienced so many wonderful connections, and being able to inspire or motivate or touch someone emotionally through sharing something online is such a beautiful and like wonderful experience. So I've just been thinking a lot about doing that balance. It is sort of like a dance between extremities of like not being a hermit and not being against old man yelling at cloud. Just like technology for the sake of technology is bad, but being more mindful of the way that we interact with technology and the premises it sort of sets for our identity and our everyday life and our viewing of other people, you know? So just like Bob Burnham, I'm now thinking like, how do I dig myself out of this hole? So at the end of his show, he has the song Can't Handle This, Kanye rant, which is like 7 minutes long, and it is such an amazing song or like art performance piece that I have genuinely, and I'm not exaggerating, I've been watching this like once or twice a day for the past like week and a half. Like, I've watched this so many times, and I think you should go watch it if you like introspective comedy. Like, just generally watch Bo Burnham, he's amazing. But specifically this song I shared with one of my friends, and I was so happy she liked it, because it's such a vulnerable thing to share something you find funny. If someone doesn't find that funny, then it's like, well, I guess we can't be friends anymore. I'm sorry, this is it. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna make this video, because I could just keep talking about random stuff. This is almost like a podcast, you know, with people who don't have any expertise or any interesting thoughts, or who aren't very articulate. Doing podcasts, just like talking for 2 hours about nothing, and you're like, why are you sharing this with people? Why do you think we care? But apparently there's a market for it, I guess. Like, people want to listen to stuff. Oh, that's another theme, like having really well-crafted content, but then having an audience that maybe does watch YouTube to sort of recuperate. Like, I know I do that. I watch stupid TV shows or like stupid reaction commentary videos. They can be like really well crafted and well thought out, like Drew Gooden's commentary videos are amazing. It's like sometimes I just am not in the mindset to actually deal with something that's well made. I mean, you have to like actively interact with material. Like sometimes you're just so burned out, you want to go home and you want to watch something really like stupid and shallow and dumb. Get me right, I'm exaggerating, right? But when you want to just sort of log off on your brain and you just want to sort of passively get told stuff or get like input in some shape or form, it makes sense that people listen to podcasts or watch, you know, reaction videos or drama channels and such, because it's sort of like when you've spent a whole day thinking and doing intellectual work, you don't want to do it at home, you know? But at the same time, I'm like, I don't want to make videos for people to disconnect to. So I do put a lot of energy into my videos because they're not there to just be passively consumed. You're supposed to like interact with them, and they're supposed to somehow expect something back from you as well as the audience, if that makes sense to you guys. Yeah, I think I'm gonna just end the video with saying that I love when you guys actively interact with me on my videos, and I especially love comments. For some reason, they just feel more real on YouTube than on Instagram. I don't know, maybe I'm like desensitized to Instagram at this point, but so I want to know if you like this genre, because I can definitely plop down in front of the camera with something I'm knitting on and talk for hours, but I'm trying to restrain myself here. And if you have some topics you want me to talk about, I can act like I'm an expert like any other good old YouTuber does, and talk about it without any legitimate reason to be speaking out about it. Let me know if you like this format of a video. I know I didn't, like, I'm just knitting on the sleeve, it's kind of boring. Should maybe have waited until it got to the cuff and like sort of walked you through what I was doing there, but it would maybe take away from the concept of me just like sitting down talking, because it would be distracting for my thought process to do that. So I'm like, good luck editing this, Ida. Wow, I really have a habit of rambling, I'm sorry. To both me and you as the audience and the editor of this. Thank you for watching this. If you sat through all of that, let me know what you think about the topics I was talking about, what you want to hear about, whatever. Like, please just comment. I really love hearing what you guys are saying and thinking about my videos. So that's all for now. Goodbye.